you, and good afternoon to all of you. I'll be presenting the study on reintegration of migrants, which is titled Returning Home, Experiences and Challenges, the Experience of Returnee Migrant Workers of Sri Lanka. And I'll be presenting on behalf of our research team, which also includes Neluka Gunasekara, Nipuni Pereira, and Dr. Nisha Arunatilaka. As you may know, return migration can in some ways be more significant than out migration for a country for policy purposes, because workers generally return with accumulated savings as well as new skills, with the possibility of contributing significantly to economic development. And also because the reintegration experience of returnee migrants can either increase their vulnerability and poverty or enhance their economic status as well as that of the country. Some of the challenges that migrants face on return are shown in this diagram. Some of the economic challenges include lack of savings, lack of access to self-employment, lack of skills, and lack of information on potential economic activities. Some of the social challenges include broken marriages, weakened family ties, and psychological issues. Literature shows that there are a number of structural and individual factors which may affect a migrant's ability to successfully reintegrate into his or her home country. And individual factors include age, gender, country of work, type of work performed, and so on, while the structural factors include policies undertaken by the returnee's home country towards returnees, the local government's receptiveness towards returnees, the local government's receptiveness, as well as the local community's attitudes towards returnees, and there are other factors as well. In 2008, the National Labour Migration Policy of Sri Lanka was introduced, which addresses reintegration, and under which a number of programs, such as the Rataviru program, was introduced. However, Sri Lanka is yet to see a comprehensive policy on reintegration. Meanwhile, existing studies focus largely on domestic workers and female returnee workers, with little focus on reintegration of other skill categories. So in this background, in this study, we try to find out how migration has affected the economic and social standing of migrants, to see what the characteristics are of returning migrants who are economically better off and have successfully reintegrated into society, and also to see how effective the existing programs and institutions have been in assisting these returnee migrants integrate to the society and the economy. For the statistical analysis, we use data collected through a survey carried out by SPARC of Columbia University and the ILO. It's the same data set that Bilesha explained and she used in her study as well. The survey has covered 2,000 returnee migrants using purposive sampling strategy, and after some statistical adjustments, the remaining sample consists of 1,981 returnees. Here through this, we have used several models, and here we look at how demographic, socio-economic, foreign employment, and institutional factors affect the economic and social reintegration of migrants through a probit regression. And to measure if there has been some improvement in the economic status, we use two models. Model 1.1 looks at self-reported family economic improvement, while Model 1.2 looks to see whether there has been any improvement in the possession of productive assets. Next, we look at social integration in terms of the ability of returnees to integrate with their immediate family and the extended family. And in order to validate the findings of the quantitative analysis, and also in order to obtain a deeper understanding of the reintegration experience, as well as to identify the level of institutional support that's available for returnees, we conducted 10 face-to-face interviews with returnees from Colombo, Gampa, and Anuradhapura, and we also had 21. We did 21 key informant interviews with migration-related institutions, including government and non-government institutions. In finding out how migration has affected the economic and social standing of migrants, the results show that only 21% have reported that their family economic situation has improved, while only that of about 6.3% has been able to improve the possession of productive assets. In terms of social integration, 26% has been able to successfully reintegrate with their immediate family, while only 5.1% have mentioned that they were able to successfully reintegrate with their extended family. So in other words, this shows that about 80% have not been able to improve their family economic situation, and that about 74% have not successfully reintegrated with their immediate family. I'm sorry. In terms of we also looked at the current employment status, and the data shows that about 47% of the returnees are currently employed. So in other words, out of 1,981 respondents, while 930 are employed, about 1,051 are unemployed. However, from the 930 that are actually employed, on average, 76% have found employment within 3 months upon return, and another 15% have taken 3 to 6 months to find a job. So this shows that for a majority of returnees, economic and social reintegration is still a challenge. Through the interviews we had, we found out that some of the main challenges of reintegration include finding employment, and there's a lack of funds for self-employment, and also there's an inability of expanding business due to lack of funds and underdeveloped locality. And as we heard in the video, some returnees we spoke to highlighted the need for assistance in terms of self-employment opportunities, and they also mentioned that they lack documentation that's required in obtaining loans. Here we look at the characteristics of returnee migrants who are economically better off and have successfully reintegrated into their society. I won't go through all the findings in respect of time, but I'll focus on some of the key findings. And the analysis shows that females are less likely to be economically better off, and this is in terms of the ownership of productive assets, and also that they are less likely to reintegrate, they're less successful in reintegrating with their immediate family. And as you can see here, it's highlighted in blue here, compared to migrants with post-primary education, those with GCE O-level and higher are better off in terms of self-reported family economic improvement. Further, migrants in urban areas have a lower chance of improving productive assets compared to those in the rural areas. And a reason for this might be that might be the relatively high prices of productive assets such as land in urban areas. And urban areas, returnees from urban areas are also less capable of successfully reintegrating with their immediate family. In terms of the countries they migrate to, results show that returnees from Middle East are less likely to be economically better off compared to returnees from other countries. And in relation to the duration, longer the time spent abroad, returnees are more likely to be economically better off while the probability of successfully settling down with the immediate family is low. Further, returnees who have some sort of link with other institutions tend to be returnees who are not doing well economically. We went in a bit further to see who fares better by skill level, and we found that economic improvement is higher for skilled workers compared to unskilled workers. Here, unskilled workers also include housemaids, and the skilled category, the semi-skilled workers are also included. However, overall, since only 28% of skilled workers are economically better off, this shows the need for better institutional support for both categories. This slide shows a detailed breakdown of the characteristics of skilled and unskilled returnees. Again, I won't go into all the details, but for instance, we find that from the unskilled workers, those who have used remittances to pay back loans rather than building a house, and those that are primary educated, are mature in age and have sought institutional assistance, have experienced some improvement in their economic status. So how effective have the existing programs and institutions been? The study finds out that only a very few, about 189 out of the 1981 respondents, have maintained any sort of links with institutions on return. However, this number may be higher now with the appointment of development officers in districts who maintain direct links with female returnee migrants, and the study was, I think, carried out before their appointments. In terms of institutional support, some of the key programs carried out by some of the migration-related government and other institutions are listed here. Some of the important measures include the Rata Bureau program introduced by the Ministry of Foreign Employment, Promotion and Welfare and the SLBFE, which offers a housing loan up to 300,000, and I think we heard in the morning from Mr. Jayaratne that the self-employment loan, which was 50,000 rupees, has been increased to 250,000 rupees. There are also a number of training centers providing pre-departure training for migrants. However, there are very few programs which focus on returnee migrants in particular. And also there are a number of INGOs and NGOs such as the ILO, IOM, Caritas and ACTFORM, which conduct vocational training programs, provide grievance support, and also offer self-employment loans and so on. We also thought that it would be interesting to look at what type of reintegration programs are in place in some of the other countries. And as you might know, Philippines is one of the countries that have some interesting reintegration programs. However, since some of the next speakers in the panel will be speaking on this, I'll just go through some of the key programs. In the Philippines, support to returnee migrants has been made a priority under the Migrant Workers and Overseas Filipino Act of 1995. And the country's reintegration program follows the overseas employment cycle from pre-departure to in-service to return. For example, in the pre-departure phase, the reintegration program guides the workers as well as their families to work towards a common goal that is to be achieved when the worker is abroad. Some of the other interesting programs include the Overseas Filipino Workers Groceria Project, which provides livelihood and self-employment opportunities through the establishment of cooperative grocery stores. And under this, an interest-free loan assistance package is provided in the form of merchandise goods. Apart from this, reintegration preparedness activities are arranged for workers at foreign work sites, where they are also informed about the business and investment opportunities that are available in the Philippines. And for example, they've had forums on aquaculture investment opportunities in Saudi Arabia for Filipino workers. The Philippines also has a National Reintegration Center for Filipino workers, which acts as a one-stop center for all, which provides all reintegration services for workers, their families, and their communities. So to summarize, the analysis shows that a majority of the returnees in the sample that we considered have not successfully reintegrated upon return, and that in terms of skill level, there has been higher economic improvement for workers that are highly skilled compared to unskilled workers, and also that very few seem to have links with migration-related institutions or other institutions on their return. Therefore, there is a need for a comprehensive reintegration program, and some of the policy recommendations stemming from the study are one, the need to direct returnees to existing livelihood programs. Some of the returnees that we spoke to were actually unaware of the programs that were already in place. And secondly, it's important to identify those that return with new and special skills. And also it's important to develop programs which can make use of these special skills that would in return benefit both the migrants as well as the country. And in this context, it will be beneficial to gather information on the number of arrivals, on the migrants that are interested in self-employment, and so on. And this type of information can also be used as a guideline to find out the skills the returnees possess, and it will also enable institutions to develop the necessary aid programs, loan schemes, and other programs. There can be also initiatives to start and improve local industries by creating a market for local entrepreneurs, and creating awareness of existing programs is also important so that the returnees are aware of such programs that are available for them. There is also a need to identify returnees as a special and distinct group. That is, like, for example, when we had interviews with training institutes and credit institutes, it shows that the programs that are currently available are more general in nature, and that they're not targeted to the needs of returnee migrants in particular. And finally, it's essential that there is a systematic monitoring and evaluation of programs in place to assess the effectiveness and to identify the areas that need attention. Thank you.